Good evening, race fans. Welcome back to Season 4 of the Alliance Sim Racing V8 Supercars Championship. This is round 6 tonight, coming to you from the beautifully twisting and technical Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama. My name is Jared Cole, and on behalf of everyone here at Simple Racing Broadcast, thank you so much for joining us again tonight. In the booth with me this evening is, of course, none other than Josh Harris, a man who knows a thing or two about taming these Gen 3 beasts on tight circuits. Mr. Harris, welcome back to the booth, mate. How was your week off?
Thank you very much for having me back, Jared. I am pleasantly pleased with the invite to come back after the extraordinary job that Ryan Palmer no doubt did in my absence. So thank you very much to Ryan for filling in, and thank you very much, Jared, for having me back. Barber Motorsport Park, what a cool track, Jared. Lots and lots of undulation, tight corners, but some really free-flowing stuff as well. I mentioned to you before off air that I think that they who win tonight will want to be comfortable with oversteer, because this track is pretty wild, and who better to tackle it than the entire crew here at ASR.
Absolutely. Looking forward to another night of exciting racing after the absolute drama that came at the end of round 5 in Virginia. We won't revisit it, but suffice to say, if you haven't seen it, do make sure you go back and check out last week's broadcast, because race 2 was an absolute thriller of a finish, and probably not in the way that you're expecting. Tonight, though, we face another 2-race evening, 16 laps in race 1, so a bit of a sprint here, and then of course race 2, 35 laps, the longer of the races. 2 compulsory pit stops in race 2, with that reverse top 5 grid coming into play as well. A 50% fuel capacity limit in both races this evening. The conditions could not be better. 33 degrees of track temperature, 18 degrees in the air, so the track will be cooling down over the course of this race. It's set up to be another fantastic night of racing here, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. A little bit of strategy to come. Once again, we're very used to this sort of format here at ASR, a dual CPS race to when 2 compulsory pit stops aren't needed. We'll go into it a little bit more during that race, Jared, but we've actually been given some of the key information that we need to understand the driver's fuel burn. So we have been given a little bit of secret sauce so that we know what's going on. But until then, let's have a look at our championship standings. I'm excited to see this. Obviously, I had a week off last week, so outside of getting a recap on a little bit of drama, I'm actually not up with how everything went. But Jamie Dyke and Matt Vanderkraan are absolutely still out in front there, Jared. Only 20 points in it. As we are, right around the halfway mark of the season. It's a pretty exciting time to be here in this championship. But please fill us in. What has happened after last week?
Yeah, look, I know certainly Jamie Dyke was feeling less than optimistic about his chances after last week's drama, but still sitting there in position 2, not far at all off the back of Matt Vanderkraan. Jamie McKnight, again, only about 30 points back, and he's got Wayne Walker right on his tail. Mark Poynton's still in, as is Dean Logsdale, who's been putting in some phenomenal performances. Not too far off the back, David Coleman, Brian Minogue, Anthony Weismer, Damien Cairns rounding out the top 10. But really that top 4 or 5 all still in with an awesome shot. It's important to note at this stage that the drop round has been accounted for in these points. So we'll have to wait and see how this evening's racing delivers and see what sort of a difference anyone really can make to Matt Vanderkraan's championship run so far. We'll go down to the track now and let's take a look at some of the qualifying action, because the drivers are, of course, out on track right now, completing their 2 lone laps of qualifying. And I reckon we've got probably a few drivers to check out. So let's get right into it. And we might start off with none other than Jamie Dyke, who, as we said, had a bit of a rough week last week. But, he's back into it here, and hopefully a better week this time around. So we take a look at the times so far, and you can see that the times, as always, Josh, very, very close. The top 12, top 13 now, as Lon McKee sets his first qualifying time, all within a second, and a bunch of drivers just outside a second further back. So there's really not a lot in this. Jamie Dyke currently sitting in 9th. He's going to want to improve that a little bit, but Yeah, he's up against some stiff competition as always. Matt Vanderkraan just getting pipped for the top of the timing tower there. Wayne Walker by 7,000ths of a second. There is not going to be a lot in this race tonight. Josh, from your perspective, having turned a lap or two here, not a great deal, I know, but how do you see this playing out? What are the opportunities for these drivers when we do get into the racing proper? Are they going to have much of a chance to overtake here at Barber Motorsports Park? Or is it really about forcing the error and waiting for the mistake from the driver in front?
I think it's a little bit of both, Jared. So there's definitely opportunity to pass here at Barber. If you can get a run off the last corner, turn one will present itself as a passing opportunity, and then down into the hairpin at what would likely be turn 4. I apologise, I don't have any turn numbers in front of me, but around that turn 4, turn 5, the first hairpin to the left is going to present opportunity. And then on top of that, though, Jared, so many of these corners are over crests, blind entries. There's undulation galore. I think that there is going to be cars falling off the track tonight, and that will just purely be through a little bit of,
See Peter Sattler do exactly that.
Speaking of, and it's just going to come through. It's so hard to concentrate for as long as these guys need to, and I think this is really going to be a track that bites those who leave the racing surface. So I think that tonight is really about, as we see there, Dave Coleman putting on a bit of an expression session. He has left a fair bit of rubber on the track, not as much left on his boots anymore. But what I was saying, Jared, was plenty of opportunity to fall off the track tonight. So it's really going to be about keeping your nose clean and maybe giving up a couple of tenths every lap to make sure that you're comfortable enough that you do remain on track.
Yeah, plenty of action still ahead of us as David Coleman makes his way around, and looking like most of our drivers, if I'm not mistaken, virtually all now have put in their laps and calling it an evening. So David Coleman, the last out on track right now. I believe he's still got this lap up his sleeve of his two laps to complete here, where everyone else has pretty well finished off their 2 qualifying laps. We're getting fairly close to the end of qualifying, getting ready to jump into race 1, and Coleman's got a bit of work to do if he wants to move up. We're 21st on that first lap. It's a little bit uncharacteristic from David Coleman, isn't it?
It is, but it's such a challenging track, and we talk about our 21st, it's 1.2 seconds off the pace, and very easy at a track like this to drop 1.2 seconds. So Dave Coleman is now heading around towards the last sector of this track. He just has this big, long, sweeping right-hand second last corner as he now comes back to the left for the last corner and making the little shoot down towards the start-finish line to see where he can go and where he ends up, as he should now have crossed the finish line, and he does make up a few positions up to 16th. So, under a second off the pace, realistically, probably, somewhere there or thereabouts for Dave Coleman. I wouldn't say that Dave's the absolute fastest bloke on earth, but he's done a really good job under pressure to put in a good second lap.
Yeah, we'll now just wait, because there'll be a couple of cars that are yet to finish qualifying or even get out on track to begin with. So still got another 5 minutes or so if these drivers do want to put in qualifying laps. We can see that Mark Poynton's currently sitting in the pit, but he's completed his. Peter Sattler and Matt Vanderkraan both sitting in their pit boxes at the moment as well, but not in a position to come back out on track. Haven't seen qualifying laps as yet from Damon Fisher, from Scott Gamble either, so still an opportunity for them if they decide to go for it. At this stage, though, we just need to wait out the rest of this qualifying session and get ready to get underway. Look, it is a really odd track for an American track, particularly, Josh. It's a very European flow to it, isn't it? You generally see the style of track like this somewhere like Imola or Brands Hatch even. It's much more of a roller coaster than it is a raceway, and that's a bit unusual for these American tracks.
It is a little unusual, but maybe that just brings a little bit of charm to it. It's not the norm for our US brothers and sisters, but it is certainly a track that I would say is chock-a-block full of character. It's going to be, really cool to see these guys race around here, and I think that it's going to deliver action plenty.
I have no doubt. So this is how they finished up. Wayne Walker takes pole alongside Matt Vanderkrant, Damien Cairns and Dean Logsdale right behind them, then Jason Spriggs and Michael Stewart. Mark Point and Jamie McKnight, then Jamie Dyke and James Hardy rounding out the top 10. Scott McCune and Mick Clifton just behind them on row number 6. Then Jim Caperonis returns this week alongside Andrew Hoffman, Lorne McKee and David Coleman ahead of Stephen Varga and Brian Minogue. Alex Kidas and Peter Sattler rounding out your top 20 with Peter Latham and Dylan Sipple just behind them. Rick Varga and Troy Sipple, look out, lined up alongside each other on row 12. We'll have to keep an eye on that one off the start line there, Josh, because that could get a little spicy, I reckon. Dave Galley and Simon Farrington alongside each other, probably not quite as spicy considering the teammates. Michael Power and Andrew Johnston ahead of David Logsdale and Craig Rose, and then of course Scott Gamble and Damon Fisher not setting a qualifying time. We'll wait and see if we do actually see them get onto the grid here tonight. Tim Nicol and Nathan Allen, your safety car drivers this evening once again, and we're getting ready to go racing. It's going to be an absolute cracker of an evening. Do make sure you stick around. And we are waiting now just on the drivers getting onto the grid, and our stewards saying that we are good to go. Josh, obviously you missed last week. A few things going on throughout that race, but anyone that you've come back to keep an eye on this week in particular?
I think that it's just going to be the usual suspects, Jared. There's we've got a stacked grid full of incredibly fast guys, and I know that I'm getting some splinters from sitting on this fence so hard, but I'm just looking now at the qualifying order, and as usual, I've said it a couple of times this year, I think, Jared, but the cream always rises to the top, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And in saying that, Dean Logsdale is having an absolute belter of a season this far. I mean, the points in the championship just don't really match up to some of the performances we've been seeing from him. So I'm very hopeful that we get to see another good performance this week from Dean. Certainly was a very, very impressive performance last week at Virginia. Jamie Dyke, he's starting back in 9th. I think he's got a bit of work to do here, but hopefully he's retained a little bit of the fire from last week and is planning on bringing that to the show this evening for us as well. We're just counting down now, waiting on the confirmation of these last few drivers jumping on the grid, waiting on Scott McCune and Brian Minogue. Scott Gamble has made his way to the grid at the very back in 31st. Damon Fisher has not gridded at this stage, so we'll have to wait and see if he will be joining us this evening. Look, I think there's nothing much left to say except let's go racing. We're waiting on that green flag being waved at the back of the grid. Last of our drivers jumping in there now, and I think we're just about ready to get underway here at Barber Motorsport Park. The weirdest sculptures I think I've seen at any track, incidentally. I've no idea why the spiders are there. If you're in the chat and you know why they've got those spider sculptures, can you let us know? Right now, though, we're going to get concentrating on the racing. The lights are up. We are under starters' orders. And we are off with race 1. A great start from Wayne Walker. Matt Vanderkrant's going to have to do some work to catch up to him. Keep your eyes springs. Immediately, we've got issues at the start. Huge collision. This is going to cause all sorts of dramas as we try to get away from the line. The rest of the pack off and running, but that is a shocker of a start for a whole bunch of drivers. From my count, Peter Latham, David Coleman, Dave Galley, Michael Power, David Logsdale, Peter Latham getting caught up in again, Rick Vigar, Michael Power having issues getting going again. That's caused some huge issues right off the start. I have no idea what triggered that, Josh. I don't know if you saw anything, but not the start that a lot of those drivers would have been hoping for, I am sure.
No, I didn't capture just quite who the contact was with, but it looked like Dave Coleman was the first car that I noticed pointing sideways, and then just a bit of a cascading effect from there. Once he had spun, there was all sorts of cars facing in all sorts of directions. We are lucky to have gotten through that without a safety car. So obviously everyone is back up and running, which is fantastic to see. And we already start to see grass flying all over the place. These guys are absolutely known for doing their very best impersonation of lawnmowers, somewhere they will be pushing as hard as they can to get or to extract every single last bit of this racing surface. And we do now start to see them settle down for the end of the very first lap. And it looks to me like the first five, Jared, appear to be running line astern exactly as they started, which is fantastic to see. I'm not 100% sure that Michael Power is actually first. I think that's
I think he's gotten
a little
caught
bit
up in
of an error.
That jump to the pits is what's done it. It's actually because he's just crossed the line and then jumped back to the pits. It's caught him as having completed an entire first and second lap. So that will correct itself as we get around here. iRacing needs to get caught up. Wayne Walker is absolutely in the race lead right now. And you can see already a few moves starting to happen. Scott Gamble and Stephen Vargas starting to make their way up through the field. We'll go back and we'll keep an eye on this one because Scott Gamble not having the sort of race he would have liked last week. So it's good to see him getting a move on as we make our way through the chicanes here. Quite a bit of damage on the front of what looks to be Stephen Vargas' car there, the Quantum Racing entry missing its front bar. We will go back in just a moment and have a look and see if we can find out exactly what triggered that huge mess to start our race off this evening. But further up through the field, and Dean Logsdale hanging on by an absolute skin of his teeth to fifth. He's got Spriggs and Poynton right on his tail, and then Stewart and McKnight not too far behind. So he's going to have to be absolutely on his A game here. And I'm just waiting for iRacing to figure out that Michael Power is actually not in the lead of this race. It's interesting. You don't often see it get it this wrong for this long. So I'm not quite sure how on earth that has happened. It's a very odd one. But I'm hopeful that at some stage that's going to correct itself in the next, 14 odd laps. Wayne Sanderson, I'm not sure if I actually said good evening to you, my friend, but welcome back to the coverage. Not the start we expected to bring you here this evening.
Probably not the start we expected, Jared, but one that gives us plenty to talk about nonetheless. Interestingly, on a track like this, I'm just casting my eyes up and down the totem pole, and I can say there's probably been less movement than I would have expected to see. Obviously, a few people that have lost a significant number of positions through a couple of accidents, but all in all, across the top 9 positions, only 2 cars have swapped position. Everyone else is in their starting position. So I find it really interesting for this track. I thought that it would have thrown up more opportunity than it has so far, as we see one of the Team AJR cars diving into the pits. I believe that'll be David Logsdale.
Yep.
As we see Dean continuing on in 4th place, and as you mentioned at the start of that lap, he really was clinging on by just his fingernails, but he has just eked out ever so slight of a margin, and he will be breathing ever so slightly more comfortably, Jared. There is no doubt about that. One thing that I can say, I do have my ears firmly on the race control channel, and it has been well and truly alight tonight, Jared.
I can imagine.
Whilst there may not be a huge amount of movement up and down the totem pole, there has been plenty of people that want to have a chat to race control.
And on that note, let's go back and take a look at that start line incident. Peter Latham appears to be the first one who has had a crash, although he's actually not. He was the first to get caught up in it. But certainly it was David Coleman that's had the very first of the issues. And you can see there it's contact with car number 73, Lorne McKee. By the look of things, that has set it all off. And David Coleman just absolutely caught up in amongst it there. Not at all what he would have hoped for the start of his race. Dave Galley was another one who did get caught in it, and again, just nowhere to go for the Southern Cross Racing entry, just straight into poor old Peter Latham. and all the cars just getting caught up there. You can see just trying to sort it out. David Coleman just sitting there shaking his head, I'm sure. Not at all the start that he would have wanted. But James Hardy right now, up in 13th, he's having, again, a less than enjoyable run himself. Only down 3 spots, but he's got a train of cars behind him that are starting to hustle. And Brian Minogue and Peter Sattler right there with him. Andrew Hoffman and Morton McKee not too far behind. Minogue up 4 positions so far. Peter Sattler up 5 into 15th. So they're both on the move. And James Hardy doing everything he can to avoid dropping another position. Jim Caparonis just a little further ahead, up into P10. He's up 3 spots from the start. So for all of the issues earlier, there have been obviously a few drivers who did benefit from it and have managed to make their way a little further through the standings at the start of race 1 here tonight. It is nice to note as well that Michael Powers' telemetry has been corrected, and he is back in 25th, not at the head of the pack. And I think we're all set here, Josh. Finally.
It has taken a little while to resolve everything, Jared, but it looks like we are there. While you have been chatting away, I have been doing a little bit of research about the spider that you mentioned before, and we can see there on our screen. I am led to believe from some sources that I have been able to get my hands on that the spider isn't the only sculpture around this place, and some of them I would consider to be even more creepy than the spider. Apparently it has something to do with the owner of the facility's love of all things art, Jared, and no real rhyme or reason, but I have been absolutely assured that this is not just an iRacing thing, and these sculptures do exist in real life as well.
I'll be honest, I actually find that a little creepier than not knowing. But anyway, we will roll with it. That is an interesting little tidbit, and does make me wonder a little bit about the owner. Let's jump up front though. Wayne Walker not managing to pull away. Vanderkraan has actually started to reel him in. Walker was out to almost a second and a half, 2 seconds of lead a little earlier on, but Vanderkraan seems to have found his pace and is very, very slowly trying to reel the Accelerate Sim Racing entry of Wayne Walker back in. Damien Cairns, look, he's hanging on to the back pretty well. He's bringing with him Dean Logsdale, Jason Spriggs, Mark Poynton, Michael Stewart, Jamie McKnight, Jamie Dyke. And there's quite a train here. Wayne Walker's got to be conscious of it. He's probably feeling fairly comfortable for the moment, but he is going to have to keep his eye on the mirror because he's got a lot of cars. Look at them as they come around that final turn. It's just a lineup of Gen3 supercars, all looking for just a little bit of draft if it's available to try and close these gaps up. But it's been a while since we've seen this many at the front of the pack in this sort of train, Josh. It's usually the front few and then a bit of a gap.
No, it's fantastic to see, and I think that Wayne would be reasonably comfortable out the front. He certainly seems to be managing that gap at the moment, and just making sure that he doesn't overdrive the car, but also that Matt Vanderkraan doesn't catch up too much. So I think that we've got a pretty comfortable front battle pack, and I think that these guys will, they'll know that they're in a scrap, and they're probably roughly in the positions that dictate their pace. So there might be a couple of changes, but we know how hard these cars are, not only to drive, but also to pass in. And it's I've heard the saying a few times on some podcasts that I listen to, Jack. We probably shouldn't be surprised when we see races where there isn't a huge amount of passing, because we ask these guys to go out and show us how fast they are, and then we line them up from fastest to slowest. It probably goes without saying that every now and then we're going to get a race where everyone just sort of trundles around, not really moving around too much because they qualified exactly where they should be. And to me, that looks like what we've got here is just some fantastic high quality supercars driving from a bunch of guys who are matched very evenly on pace and just going about their business in a very, very good manner.
It's interesting, isn't it? It really can look like a procession sometimes. And it's so easy to forget both the amount of work that these drivers are doing and also the speeds they're doing it at. We're on board now with Wayne Walker. We've been watching from the outside at what appears to be a fairly sedate sort of pace, but it really is just the perception that this track gives you. Barber Motorsports is probably one of the wider tracks that I've seen these supercars on in a little while, Josh. and it really does make him look slow. But you can see, even as Walker slows down for some of the tighter turns on the circuit, he's barely dropping below 100k an hour, and immediately back up over 200 quite comfortably as he negotiates that chicane. They are still going at full race pace. It just doesn't look it on such a wide track. A lot of room for error here. It's a little unusual for the supercars, considering how used they are to street circuits and walls being right there each and every time. I think it's probably a nice breather for these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's different to what we're used to, but we have to remember that these cars also don't have any form of traction control or ABS or any of those other systems that we are so used to in other forms of racing. And whilst the track is nice and wide and there is a little bit of room for error, I can assure you that the undulation and the blind corners and this corner here in particular, trying to take a turn, at the top of fourth gear, 200 kilometers an hour, Jared, and trying to still be turning while you crest a hill and the car completely unweights itself. The skill here may not be necessarily keeping the car firmly in between the white lines because of how restrictive the track is, but certainly, as Jamie Dyke has just shown us, it's so easy to get a car crossed up here. So much time these cars spend with the suspension being weighted and unweighted as they come up and over hills and bumps and all sorts of things. So I think it's just a different style of challenge to what we're used to, but I completely agree, Jared. From the outside looking in, it looks like a reasonably sedate pace. However, having just done a couple of laps before this session kicked off tonight, I can assure you that it doesn't feel particularly sedate inside the car.
And look, maybe we're just looking in the wrong places. A little further back here, James Hardy continues to hold on to 13th, but only just. Brian Minogue nose to tail there. Peter Sattler getting caught out and rear-ending Minogue a little, so that's going to cause, I'm sure, a few aerodynamic issues for him. But they find themselves side by side. Sattler gets a little bit of contact from, who was that? Hoffman. Andrew Hoffman just nudging his way through there. And it looks as though he's managed to hold on to the place there. Lorne McKee also getting through. So Peter Sattler very, very quickly losing a couple of positions after that contact. James Hardy, he'll be breathing a sigh of relief, gets just a moment of reprieve while Brian Minogue has a bit of a look in the mirrors, and then they're straight back into it. So plenty going on right throughout this pack as we jump forward to Jason Spriggs now, and Mark Poynton and Michael Stewart right on his tail. Poynton's up one spot, Stewart's down one. So they've swapped positions since the start, but otherwise, the top nine all right where they started tonight. We did talk a little off air before getting underway here this evening about whether this would be a particularly difficult track to pass on. We were kind of thinking, weren't we, Josh, that the hairpins might provide the opportunity these drivers are looking for, but I don't think we counted on just how wide open this track is and the amount of speed they were going to be able to maintain through them, because you're not seeing that characteristic Gen 3 passing under brakes or on the way out of a particularly slow corner. It's just not happening so much tonight.
It's definitely proving difficult for the drivers to make up the space that they need to execute those passes. But I think that the other thing that we're seeing is some really high quality driving, because what we're seeing, particularly with these front guys, is these supercars, you really have to capitalise on either an incredibly good piece of driving on your behalf or a small mistake on the other driver's behalf. And I guess, Jared, the way that you could look at it is we're just not seeing those mistakes. Everyone here is putting in fantastic lap times, and if I look at the last lap, every single car in the top 10 within about a second of each other on lap pace. So we're not seeing those big differences that we usually see, and we're not seeing, although as we see here, a big dive down the inside, a very typical supercar maneuver there by Hoffman to just absolutely stuff the nose in and clatter into the door of the car beside once he had the overlap, and make sure that he got that pass finished. Bit of good hard racing there. Personally, I don't mind to see it, Jared. I love a little bit of elbows out, rattling on doors and that sort of stuff. It always provides for some good entertainment.
A little bit of argy-bargy, why not? Jamie McKnight getting quite a bit of attention from his teammate Jamie Dyke. The two of these going at it. Dave Galley's had an issue there, and I think it's not so much him crashing, it's just getting out of the way as this faster traffic does come through. Take a look up front though, and Wayne Walker, he's barely maintaining the 6/10 here. Vanderkraan just behind him, you'll see, getting right up behind some of these corners. So Vanderkraan finding some pace through these hairpins, but Damien Cairns only about the same distance behind. You can see him just at the back of shot there. So Vanderkraan's got a couple of things to keep his eye on here, and we will keep checking in with them as they make their way around. Lap 12 of 16, not much further to go here in race number 1. Of course, race 2, the 2 compulsory pit stops, will certainly change things up, and the limited fuel as well. Stephen Varga making the pass on Simon Farrington up the inside, makes it look easy in the end. So he picks up another spot, but still down 3 after getting caught up early in all of the nonsense. Just all of it.
Yeah, difficult race for Vargs to run with no front end on that car as well. So he is doing a fantastic job. Now we bounce back to the mid-pack guys, and a genuine
finally makes the move.
Here.
Oh, he was looking up the inside of that chicane there. I don't know what he was going to do with it ending up on the outside of the next one. Is he setting up for a few corners time here? Look at the pack come through. Minogue's managed to make it up the inside of Hardy. Can McKee go with him? That is the question. Hardy can't get back into the train, and Lorne McKee gets through as well. They're going to come close to making contact, and Brian Minogue just holding Lorne McKee up there a bit. I'm sure not intentionally, but it is going to cause just a little bit of stress and consternation for Lorne McKee as he finds himself on the outside of turn 1. James Hardy getting the better line through there, but Lorne McKee back on the inside. And look, we've got almost 3 wide here. Little bit of slip and slide there as we get 2x2 formation contact there. That's Peter Sattler again getting contact, would you believe? And Lorne McKee finds himself facing the wrong way. Thankfully doesn't appear to have copped too much damage into the wall, but those tyres will not be in the best of conditions, and he's going to drop a lot of places as a result. Something had to give there in that pack, and unfortunately Lorne McKee was it.
Yeah, we saw some fantastic racing there, Jared. Lorne McKee and it may have been Hoffman side by side for such a long time. But what that started to do is exactly what I was saying before with needing those cars around you to make those little mistakes. We started to see cars that slow out a corner and different lines being taken, and suddenly the racing just came alive. Not 100% sure there whether Lorne McKee just got a touch on the top of the hill, or whether he was simply a little bit too hungry on the throttle as he crossed over the crest of that hill. But a huge moment for him. And lucky to see him escape with limited damage, and he will be on for a recovery drive next race. As we do now move our attention forward to the battle for 4th, the podium is looking reasonably well secured, I would suggest, Jared, but this little battle pack is really starting to shape up. I'm not 100% sure whether these guys are going to be able to do a huge amount. There's just a nice little buffer, about a car and a half between each of these cars, which is going to make it really difficult to pass. But no doubt that all of these drivers are going to be looking for ever so slight mistake of the car in front, and really looking to be able to capitalise on that and start to move forward. At the moment, I would suggest that Logsdale is the one who's looking hardest in his mirrors. There's just that little bit of a gap forward to Spriggs, and then the cars behind him are really starting to queue up at the moment.
Let's go back and take a look from the drone shot at Lorne McKee and see just what happened here. So you can see up alongside James Hardy makes the pass there, ends up having to just back out as Brian Minogue moves across. So this is down onto the main straight, and it's through the next couple of corners that things start to get interesting. So James Hardy remains alongside. It's only here through turn 1 and 2 that you see Lorne McKee starts to get ahead, but runs very wide, has to drop back. And then right behind him, of course, the Southern Cross Racing entry, number 18, Andrew Hoffman. They're side by side there. And it actually, Lorne McKee's turned himself across the nose of Peter Sattler. So nothing to do there. Very lucky to avoid contact with the other Angry Birds car. All in all, not a lot in it in the end.
No, not a lot in it, Jared, but up until that point, right up until that little touch, such a fantastic piece of racing with a bunch of guys involved, as we now finally see Dyke be able to get through on Jamie McKnight. That has been brewing up for a number of laps. I am just interested. I'll just wonder for a little while, Jared, whether that was a little bit of one fishy car being nice to the other and setting it free to see if it can get any more positions before the end of this race, or whether Jamie McKnight has really made Jamie Dyke work for that. But nonetheless, Jamie Dyke is now free, and he is going to be a man on a mission for a little bit over a lap as he does come around the second last corner, this long sweeping right-hander. We quickly jump back to a bit of a
reckon
replay.
Jamie Dyke's earned that. Although it's unusual for McKnight to leave the door open like that.
I think that at the very least, McKnight has known that that's a fishy car in his mirrors and made it very easy once that once that overlap had been gained. Jamie McKnight certainly didn't challenge too hard, which is good to see between teammates. Some nice clean racing. Jamie Dyke obviously had to earn that, but once he had earned it, he was set free. We do now skip forward on the very last lap of this sprint race to start off our night, Jared, and we see Wayne Walker and Matt Vanderkraan out in front. That gap sitting nicely at half a second, and I really do think that when we get the opportunity to talk to Wayne Walker tonight, that he is going to tell us that he was within reason, reasonably comfortable tonight and managing his race. This is a race that has looked absolutely under control from go to woe. So we do now just see them chewing through these last couple of kilometres of racetrack. There is no doubt that Wayne Walker and Matt Vanderkraan, though, have been on their own little planet as far as pace is concerned this race, Jared, with a 3.8 second gap back to third place in Damien Cairns.
And as always, it's going to be interesting to see the reverse top five come into play, but Wayne Walker takes the win with Matt Vanderkraan right behind him. Here comes Damien Cairns for the third step, and still the battle continues. Mark Point looking desperately for a way past, doesn't get there in the end. Jamie Dyke crossing in ninth, Jim Caperonis taking 10th spot. Then, of course, Clifton, Scott McCune coming through as well. And Brian Minogue finding himself a little further back with Andrew Hoffman. Quite a bit of space there considering how close they were racing for quite some time. And then James Hardy somehow has managed to hold off Peter Sattler and Troy Sipple all the way back here. That other Angry Birds car, actually a lapped car. So Troy Sipple comes through ahead of Vargs and Dylan Sipple, the three quantum entries, crossing the line together. And not a bad finish at all this evening. Fairly trouble-free, which I'm a little surprised at. But this track really a very, very wide one, isn't it?
It is, but the undulation is what provides it its challenge. So I still think it was a genuine display of fantastic driving and driver control. One thing I will note very quickly, Jared, Jamie Dyke and Jamie McKnight swapped positions back at the end of that race. So I do wonder whether Jamie McKnight let Jamie Dyke through to see whether he could grab a couple of positions, and when he couldn't, that position was given back towards the end of the race.
Yeah, and look, we've spoken to the Fishy guys before. There's not often team orders involved in that, but in saying that, it wouldn't be unusual, I would imagine, to have the Fishy drivers just having a chat and perhaps working on strategy. Let's say, I reckon there's probably come into play there as we take a look at the results from race number one. Wayne Walker taking the win by just over half a second to Matt Vanderkraan, and Damien Cairns, Jason Spriggs and Dean Logsdale will be the top five that reverse their positions. So Walker and Vanderkraan will be fighting through just a little bit of traffic to get back out in front. Mark Point and Michael Stewart, Jamie McKnight, Jamie Dyke and Jim Caperonis rounding out your top 10 there. Mick Clifton and Scott McCune falling just short this evening, but still some good points for them. Brian Minogue and Andrew Hoffman came through with quite a bit more space between them than we were probably expecting. James Hardy and Peter Sattler ahead of Troy Sipple. And then the rest of the quantum entries all flowing through there practically at once. Stephen Varga making his way through ahead of Dylan Sipple. Simon Farrington and Lon McKee finishing in 20th and 21st, respectively, ahead of Alex Kidas and Scott Gamble, who did serve a late drive-through penalty in that race there. Andrew Johnston from Team AJR in 24th. And Michael Power, the last of the drivers to finish on the lead lap. Peter Latham and Damon Fisher not having the best of evenings. And I don't know that Peter Latham actually got underway after that early crash. I think he's been taken out in that one pretty what's the word I'm looking for here? Pretty thoroughly, Josh. It's not been the race he'd hoped for. I hope we do see him back in race number 2, but that is something we'll have to wait and see at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Those start line crashes are always a huge disappointment and really do shake things up. There is a number of cars that are probably a little bit out of position and will be looking to charge forward in the next race. Significantly longer race, Jared. Plenty of other little bits and pieces. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Tim Lawson has jumped into the chat and has been eagle-eyed enough to spot the fact that Mr. Logsdale from Team AJR has snagged himself a pole position for race 2. Jared, obviously you made mention of the fact that that Dean is one to look out for tonight, and if you can't move forward in race 1, the absolute best place to finish would be 5th. So he has a fantastic opportunity coming up for him in race 2.
Absolutely. It'll be very, very interesting to see what he does with this. As long as he gets a good start, I'd be looking for Dean to really step out and extend an early lead. I do think that he probably got caught up a little bit behind Damien Cairns and Jason Spriggs tonight, because the pace that we've seen from Dean over the last couple of races, he's definitely got it. And given how much difficulty we saw with overtaking opportunities here tonight, I reckon he's been stuck there in 5th for most of race 1. Whether or not it was a, let's call it a strategic decision, but I think it's going to be a best case scenario for Dean Logsdale to be on pole, and he's just, the only thing he's got to do is just keep his eye on the mirrors, because if Vanderkrant or Walker do make it past Cairns and Spriggs early, then the battle is absolutely going to come to him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very interesting, next race, and there'll be lots of stuff going on, Jared. I can just got my spidey senses are tingling as we get ready for a race that is genuinely centered in strategy. We saw how difficult it was to pass in race 1, and I think that what that means is that our drivers now will be spending this warm-up session crunching some numbers and trying to come up with what is going to be the strategy that vaults them to the front.
Yeah, no doubt. And as we get ready to finish off the warm-up and get into race 2, we'll take a quick break with a word from our major sponsors and be right back. Welcome back, folks. We're getting ready to get underway here in race number 2, and Dean Logsdale and Jason Spriggs getting themselves set to start from the front row for this 35-lap second race. Tim Lawson calling out a very obvious thing to watch out for here this evening. Safety car is, look, it's a possibility. 2 compulsory pit stops, and of course the safety car will play a huge part in perhaps managing that. Damien Cairns and Matt Vanderkraan third and fourth, and Wayne Walker starting in fifth. Otherwise, the field unchanged from the end of race number one. And yeah, look, it's all on Team AJR. Dean Logsdale out in front. He's got a huge opportunity here. If Spriggs and Cairns are as difficult to pass for Matt Vanderkraan and Wayne Walker as they appear to have been for Dean Logsdale in race one, then he just might make himself a bit of a hole out in front, get some clean air, and try and put in a good lead. I don't know that we're going to see too many incidents here in race number two, Josh. That said, I wasn't expecting to see a start line incident in race one either.
No, and one thing that these ASR guys have proven time and time again, and that is that they race the same whether there's 15 laps or 30 odd. So I expect to see these guys, as always, jostling for position very quickly upon the race start. It's going to be fantastic to see. Will we see an early safety car? Will we see a Matt Vanderkraan special diving into the pits and getting that first CPS out of the way? I guess it will depend on how his start goes and how he feels about the cars around him. Do we see Dean Logsdale simply get a good start and drive off into the sunset? We have seen him do that before this season, so can he do it again? Lots to play out here still, Jared. This is a long race and so much, I guess, in front of these drivers. I'm interested to see, where do we go from here? What is the winning strategy? I've been crunching some numbers in my head, and I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure that I know what the strat is. We'll get into it a little bit when the race first unfolds, Jared, about what these drivers need to do and what they've got on board, by the way, of fuel and stuff. But what I do know is if you take an early pit stop, you absolutely need to take fuel on your second. It's going to be an interesting night. I wouldn't be surprised to see an early stop for tyres and then try and split this one in half. But let's see what happens and how these guys go.
Keep your eyes on Matt Vanderkraan, the 180 Angry Birds entry there on the left of the second row as we get ready to go racing here. Race number two, 35 laps, 2 compulsory pit stops, the top 5 from race 1 reversed at the front of the grid, and remembering, of course, that 50% fuel capacity limit for both races. Pit stops will be crucial, and as far as strategy goes, well, about all I can offer is make sure you are in position number 1 at the end of this race, and you're in for a pretty good evening. But anything else between here and there is yet to be seen. The revs come up as we go under starters orders. These guys loading up those trans brakes, and we are off. Dean Logsdale gets a fantastic start. That's what he's wanted. But look out, Matt Vanderkraan gets a jump as well. We are all clean, but going 3 and 4 wide off the start. And a big moment there. We've already got some cars going off. That looks like Brian Minogue has gone off into the side wall of the pits there, as well as Peter Sattler. A big moment there as well for Michael Stewart. Getting caught up in all of that, but out in front, Dean Logsdale, Wayne Walker, and Matt Vanderkraan. So unfortunately for Logsdale, he is not going to have the time to make a gap there that he was perhaps hoping for. But now he is in prime position to try and fight these guys off. A lot happening throughout the field that we'll have to come back and recap there, I think, Josh.
Lorne McKee is facing backwards too, Jared.
Well, that's less than ideal. That's probably not the winning strategy that we're looking for, and I'm hoping that he manages to get it turned around.
He has got it back up and running, but plenty of action on this opening lap. My radio has once again exploded into action. Jamie Dyke had a huge moment into turn 1, so I'm not sure whether we captured it on our cameras, but I was sneakily keeping an eye on a few other things going on, and he's very, very lucky, Jared, to still be in 8th position where he started, because he had a huge moment, and then just behind him a couple of other people had big moments as well. Obviously we've seen Brian Minogue and Peter Sattler tumble down the order, and then somewhere else on lap 1, as I said, Lorne McKee was facing backwards. So action-packed lap one, no doubt about that. Plenty of drivers that maybe just need to take a deep breath and remember that there is still 34 more laps to go. But we'll see now whether they can just settle into that rhythm and get moving forward.
Now, David Coleman has come in and has taken the early pit stop strategy. He was only in the box for 9.5 seconds, which says to me, I don't know, a fresh set of tyres, maybe? But that seems unusual. Maybe he's had some repairs to be done. I didn't see him get caught up in any of that, but of course, with so much going on, it would have been very easy to miss. We've got some action further back. Andrew Johnston, Mick Clifton looking to go side by side as Michael Power in the Southern Cross Racing entry goes a little bit of off-roading. It's not really what the Gen 3 Supercars are best at, but they don't do too badly, all things considered. He's managed to get it back on track and underway again. Further up, would you believe James Hardy right in the middle of it again, as we see here the battle for 6th, 9th, depends on how far up the field you want to look. There's not much of a gap at the moment, but James Hardy right in the middle of a P10, up 5 spots so far, but he does have Michael Stewart right on his tail and looking to make a move as we come down. Now Dean Logsdale just setting the fastest lap at 25.9, so with that clear air out in front, he is looking to make the absolute most of it, but Wayne Walker's just going with him, still only 4 tenths behind.
Yeah, he is, and one thing that I think we'll see, Jared, with there being a CPS tonight, as we see a move here between Caperonis and Caperonis trying to move forward. So the Southern Cross Racing car has definitely got a bit of speed in it, and we do see this battle going side by side for another couple of corners yet as Jamie Dyke gets through. So that is Jamie Dyke up to 7th. So that was a bit of a backwards and forwards battle for a couple of corners, and Dyke has been able to make the move forward. I was just going to say, Jared, with a race only, a bit over, just over twice the length of the first race, but 2 compulsory pit stops, really an opportunity to set some fast laps at the start of this race, Jared. Can absolutely pay very little respect to the tyres that you've got on you, because once they're worn out, you can come in and put a fresh set of boots on and work out the rest of your strategy from there. So not at all surprised to see Logsdale with his head down and having done a 25.9 in the last lap, sets a 26.0 on this lap. So he is absolutely still gunning for it and still putting in some really good times.
In saying that, Wayne Walker at 26.13, Matt Vanderklaan 26 flat, Damien Cairns at 26.04, 26.12 for Mark Poynton. That entire front pack of 5 cars just so evenly matched here. It's really going to be down to the full race length strategy as we watch Rick Vigard desperately trying to get past James Hardy and go after Troy Sipple. We know these two like to battle it out on track here, and it looks like Vigard might just have the drive he needs, although Hardy's going to find himself on the right side of the track into the next turn, just holding Vigard off into this chicane. Although he's going around the outside, they're going to have to give each other room. Vigard's made it stick. An awesome little piece of overtaking there, and he gets the head down and starts to try and reel in Troy Sipple up ahead. Scott Gamble, meanwhile, right on the tail of Stephen Varg. You can see him just at the front of screen there, and here he goes, looking up the inside, gets alongside, and looks as though he may just get away with that one. Not where I expect the passes to come tonight. You kind of don't look for them through the chicanes generally, but with such a wide track, it opens up a whole range of other options, doesn't it?
It does, and obviously there is a pretty decent set of kahunas strapped into that car, because that was a pretty brave move, but we love to see it. Just quietly on the race control channel, Jared, Brian Minogue has unfortunately been kicked while he's down. He has been recognised as at fault in the first lap incident and has copped a bit of a penalty. So not the night, or certainly not the race that Minogue wanted to get off to, for this longer race. It's been a pretty rough couple of laps.
Let's go back and take a quick look and see if we can see what has happened there. And this all starts with Brian Minogue, off just into the side of the 351 car of Mick Clifton, and then of course the number 56 car of Peter Sattler ending up so as well. It obviously started a little before that, and it is a bit of a question as to exactly where. We'll go back a little further. So off the start line, Brian Minogue up the inside. He's just sent it a little bit too hard, and yeah, look, it's tough off the start line. Everyone wants to make those positions as quickly as they can, but yeah, you'd almost call that an unsafe rejoin coming off the grass like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
almost.
That's a tough penalty, Jared. I think that a lot of people, this is where we get into some really, nitty gritty on some rules, and a lot of leagues adjudicate things differently. I wouldn't have been surprised to see that call, no further action, but as it is under the rules of ASR, Brian Minogue has been accepted as being at fault, and he will have to take his medicine. Unfortunately for him, when you're in what is essentially second to last position, a 20-second post-race penalty is not going to do a huge amount. So he will just be circulating for the rest of the night. Doesn't really matter what he does from here. He's going to finish last. So tough night out, but still plenty of laps to go, and every single point is valuable. We only spoke earlier about our championship table, and Brian Minogue is a name that is appearing probably further up than we might have expected, purely just due to being a new name and not someone that we've seen before. But he's been having a really good season, and he'll be disappointed that tonight's the night that he's been caught out with our drop rounds having already been applied.
Yeah, and look, I'm not actually entirely certain whether the drop round is able to be changed. We'll have to go digging in the rulebook to just check that out as to whether the drop rounds are applied differently each time they do have a look at it. But we'll seek some guidance on that. We'll go back and take a look as we see Wayne Walker right on the tail. We might just stick with this for just a moment, because I suspect there's a move coming here. He's been closing the gap on Dean Logsdale every lap, just by the barest of margins. We're not talking tenths per lap. We're talking hundreds, maybe even thousands per lap, and it's gotten to the point now where Walker is just about in the small amount of aero that you can get from these cars, and it might be enough for him to make a move here. But Logsdale, again, just showing a clean pair of heels on his corner exit. And that's what's made it so difficult for people to get past him the last couple of rounds, is he's managed to find the way to get this power to the ground from these Gen 3 supercars. He's done an awesome job, remembering that they're, of course, all on fixed setups. So you shouldn't see a difference due to, any particular suspension settings. This is purely driver skill that differentiates them here. Both in Mustangs. In fact, the top three all in Mustangs tonight at this stage anyway. So the setups they're running should be pretty well identical, Josh.
Yeah, they absolutely are. There's a couple of spots you can make to brake balance and things like that to help you drive the car, but at the end of the day, this series is genuinely about driver skill and pitting the drivers against each other, and Dean is doing a fantastic job. He's obviously comfortable in his car at the moment. He likes the setup. The one thing that does happen with a fixed set, particularly in a car like a supercar, is if you don't like the setup, there's just nothing that you can do about it, and you have to deal with it. But Dean's obviously comfortable, and we've seen it a couple of times this season, Jared, where when he's got some fresh air out in front of him, Dean is absolutely able to put his head down and just hit every single apex. And as we look at that last lap, he must have heard you, Jared, because Dean did manage to grab 3/10 on Wayne Walker. So just saw that gap closing up and was able to say, no, Wayne, you just need to stay where you are. I've got plenty of pace in reserve. And I think the biggest thing that we're seeing here is just, once again, just that impeccable quality driving. The one thing I've really been impressed with tonight, as this race has unfolded, Jared, is even with reasonably tight margins between Dean Logsdale and Wayne Walker, there has been no mirror driving from Dean. That car hasn't moved all over the track. He is driving his line, and as they say, the best form of defense is attack. And Dean really knows that as long as he drives good quality fast laps, he's going to be reasonably safe out in front at the moment.
Yeah, the field's certainly settling into this, and really that's what it's going to be down to, isn't it? It's going to be a bit of a game of chicken here to the first pit stop. I think for the front 7 drivers, there's only, what, 3 seconds, just over 3 seconds between first in Dean Logsdale and Jamie Dyke in 7th. So really, I suspect everyone's just going to be waiting for Logsdale to pit at this point, and he in turn is going to be waiting to see who pits first behind him before he considers making that move. He's in a pretty good position though, like really at this stage, he's got to be thinking about whether he wants to try and set up a bit of an undercut on these guys. But tell you what, dangerous to give Walker and Vanderkran clean air as well. So I don't envy Dean Logsdale having to work this out. Let's go back a little way now and have a look at Lon McKee's incident. See if we can see what's happened here. Well, he's just overcooked the rear, tried to get the power down too early and ends up sitting backwards in the middle of the track. As you said, Josh, it's not probably where he wanted to be, but thankfully no damage done other than perhaps a little bit of hurt pride.
Yeah, and a bit of really good heads-up driving from all the cars behind him to manage to get around. Probably benefit a little bit from such a wide track. Now, we did mention, as we see, Spriggs has dived into the pits there. So we're starting to see some of these pits. I was just about to talk about this, Jared. So we've done a little bit of math a few times in the past around our fuel usage, and inevitably every single time I've been proven wrong. And what I've been able to work out is it's not necessarily that my calculator's broken, it's just that I was missing a piece of integral information. So our drivers are frequently capped with their fuel capacity, and so tonight, for instance, we have a capacity of 50%, which is 66.5 litres. However, a part of the setup that these guys use dictates their starting fuel capacity. So tonight they started with 50 litres on board. They have a maximum usable capacity of 66.5, burning 2.8 litres a lap. So if we do the math, they need to take 48 litres on board at some point. They had 16 litres available to them from the very start of this race. But they have burnt down, according to my numbers, by about lap 11, they will have burnt the tank down far enough that they can fill to home. And then it will just be about that second stop. So right about this lap 10, not a bad time to stop. You can absolutely fill to the brim and go hell for leather, Jared. And really, the second stop is just about a splash to put in whatever it is that you need to get back to the end of this race. And that second stop should really only be, somewhere in the vicinity of 4 or 5 litres, so not much more than a second. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. And of course, we know that a CPS in ASR is a car going up on its jack stand. So these guys now pit on lap 10. One more lap and you would have been able to make it home. So pit on lap 10, pray for a safety car. And if one comes, Jared, really all you've got to do is pull up in your box, get the car up on the jacks and immediately drop it. And you have satisfied your CPS requirement.
And I think everyone's doing the same kind of maths that you have been as well, Josh. We saw a bunch of the cars jumping into the pits on lap 10, would you believe? Or end of lap 10, I suppose you'd call it. And right now, Dean Logsdale and Matt Vanderkran find themselves well out in front, almost 6.5 seconds back to Michael Stewart, because everyone around them has decided to call chicken first and head on into the pits. So Logsdale and Vanderkran now probably working to that same kind of thought process. There goes Vanderkran into the pits. So now Logsdale has the benefit of not having to look in the rear view for a while. He can just hang out, put in some fast laps, try and open up this gap as much as he can. And then, the only thing he'll be watching for is whether a safety car could potentially bring him undone. That's going to be the problem here, is if there is a safety car ahead at some stage. But look, I'd be feeling reasonably confident, without putting that standard commentator curse on everything, that we won't be seeing much of the 24/7 sim services safety car here this evening at Barber Motorsports Park.
Oh, Jared, I wouldn't get too excited just yet. We know how much a Gen 3 supercar loves to blow an engine and I think that it's probably safe to say that somewhere with as much undulation as Barber, you're probably susceptible to that. To give everyone a bit of an understanding whether having tyres on right now is a good idea or not, Dean Logsdale out the front, lapping in about the 26.5 mark, and Jamie Dyke on a fresh set of boots has just set the fastest lap of the race with a 25.6. So there is somewhere in the vicinity of a second available every single lap. So as we see now, just a little bit of argy-bargy between the Quantum Tint Solutions car and one of our
James
team
Hardy
AJR
and
cars.
looks like David Logsdale getting caught up in that. So
unfortunately coming together. It's a bit of a shame, but those
Dean
guys will
Logsdale
get
into
back
pits. Dean Logsdale is into the pits. So Wayne Walker now has all the work to do to try and catch up and still remain in front. It'll be interesting to see just how long Logsdale does spend in the pits. I expect he's planning on dropping back a little way through the field here. You see Wayne Walker rounding that final turn. Now keep your eye on that lower part of the pit, see if you can spy Dean Logsdale's car there anywhere. He is at pit exit, or on his way to it. There he is, just coming out. He's going to be out in the middle of this pack with cold tyres. Not where I'd like to be, that's for sure. And you can see he's alongside Mark Poynton. He's going to have to just remember those tyres are going to take just a little while to come up to temp. All in all, though, coming out in fourth, not too bad. Surprised that he spent as long as he did in the pit, though. 14.2 seconds. When you compare it to the other front runners, that's why he's ended up so far back. Wayne Walker only spending 13 and a half. Vanderkraan just shy of 13 seconds. Jamie Dyke 13.1. So a 14.2 second stop for Dean Logsdale. A little longer than I would have expected. So I wonder what the play is there.
I would suggest, Jared, he's also the only one who has probably stopped late enough that he is now filled to the finish. So essentially, Dean Logsdale has not much more than a drive-through to serve from this point on. Roll down the pit lane, pull up in your box for the absolute minimum amount of time required, drive away. So, it's going to be interesting from here how he goes. Is his strategy of staying out and filling to the end enough to see him drive through? Are those tyres that are just a couple of laps younger than those around him going to pay enough dividends? So the team AJR driver has thrown his hand on the table. He is all in, and now we see whether he's holding something that is going to see him win, or whether he's bluffing a little bit and he's going to roll around in this fourth position.
And this is where it gets interesting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this middle stint, Jared, because this is to me the most interesting part of the race. We've shuffled the deck once, and right now it makes very little sense to us. But what is going to happen when we shuffle it a second time? Yeah,
the thing I'm keeping an eye on here, Dean Logsdale on the fresher tyres is pretty much right now in the peak of his ability to put down fast lap times. The problem he's got is Jamie Dyke and Mark Point in front of him. Now, if he can't get past them, he's going to be limited to basically their lap times, which are already sitting around the 126. Matt Vanderkraan up in second, set at 125.48 on the last lap, and a 125.53 for Wayne Walker. So, Logsdale, unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get the best out of these tyres, and that's just due to the traffic he's come out in. It's interesting how just that extra second or two of time in the pits could be the difference between him managing to make this up and find himself on the podium somewhere, or perhaps having to settle for a little further back in the pack. I know it's very early in the race to be calling that, Josh, but really, that was his first lap out on the fresh set, only a 25.8, as Jamie Dyke and Mark Poynton go side by side. This is absolutely what Dean Logsdale's hoping for, is a little bit of back and forth ahead of him, and maybe just sneaking through at one of these turns. But there go Wayne Walker and Matt Vanderkraan out in front as well. So Jamie Dyke goes through on Poynton, and Dean Logsdale will be watching that with great interest to see if he can duplicate it, perhaps on the next turn, or maybe just wait until next lap.
Yeah, we just saw there Dean Logsdale, his car getting just a little bit squirrely out of that last corner. He's absolutely doing everything that he can to continue his move forward. So there's no doubt about that. He's not hanging around. I'll be interested to see how it all washes out. There definitely should be, some benefit to the strategy that he's playing. Now, is it enough to get him back to the lead? Well, I'm not sure. And track position is king, and Wayne Walker will not in any way, shape, or form be disappointed about being out with clear air in front of him. I am here to tell you.
And this is the problem right now. Jamie Dyke in third, sitting around 4.4 seconds back from those front two, or really back from Matt Vanderkraan. But Vanderkraan's still only managing to maintain a 1 second gap to Wayne Walker. He's not managing to really pull him in any closer, despite picking up a couple of tenths on that lap. So Jamie Dyke's going to have to get moving here, because it's going to be... Look, it's a long race, but we're talking 20 laps to go. And if you're not chipping away at that, and certainly last lap he dropped almost 2 seconds to the front two. So if they continue that way, then what we're looking at here is a battle for third and a battle for first and second, but not anywhere near each other.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the benefit at the moment for Jamie Dyke is the fact that he actually has 4.7 seconds to the cars in front. So just like Wayne Walker, he has beautiful, clean air in front of him, and he will be doing everything he can to make the most of it. It doesn't matter at this point whether Poynton comes with him. Jamie Dyke just needs to focus on being head down and continuing to move forward. Certainly, not a huge amount of difference in required pit stops between Dyke and Poynton. So he won't be too worried about seeing Poynton come with him. It's just about Jamie being able to put in, good quality laps, lap after lap. So he's still... he has definitely dropped off that. He's doing, although as I say that, he has crossed the start-finish line and registered a 26.3. So we do see Jamie Dyke released a little bit from those cars around him and starting to move forward. And Dyke, Poynton and Logsdale all putting in nice quick laps. Logsdale in particular, a 26.2 to be the third fastest car on the track that lap. So he's still looking to move forward. It'll be interesting to see whether he can close that gap up to Poynton and get a pass made. So far tonight, there certainly hasn't been many passes made at the pointy end of the field, and it may be that Dean Logsdale just simply doesn't have the opportunity to move any further forward.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on. We'll take a look further back in the pack, because there's a couple of other battles going on that are worth mentioning. Jay McKnight has been holding Michael Stewart at bay for quite some time, and Stewart getting that gap down to within 2 tenths just a couple of corners ago. So McKnight's got a little bit of work to do here if he wants to hang on to P8. Michael Stewart has the much fresher tyres. Jay McKnight came in for the early stop on lap 4. So Michael Stewart certainly probably on the front edge of the drop-off of those tyres. Jay McKnight, I think, starting to struggle a little bit. He's about 7 or 8 laps into those tyres, and we know that broadly that's kind of where you expect them to fall away a little bit before they do come good again for a second wind almost. But Jay McKnight needs to do everything he can to hang on in the meantime. And then further back, Dave Galley, another one under some pressure from Alex Kiedis, or rather the other way around, sorry, Alex Kiedis under pressure from Dave Galley. Not a lot in the tyre life for these guys, just good old-fashioned battling for P22. Mick Clifton coming in for his second stop in P17 and dropping now. I wonder if he's going to get any advantage from that. And you'd almost have to wonder at this point, we're about halfway through the race, so easy to fuel up to the end. I do wonder if the strategy here from someone like Clifton is, hey, get this second stop done and hope for a safety car and just fly by everyone else going into the pits for their second stop. It's not a bad way to approach it.
It's not. I think that for Clifton, really, he's racing the people around him. So it's absolutely for Clifton just about making sure that he gets the undercut on the cars around. Obviously, he would love to fall into an absolute, master stroke, but I certainly don't think that's where he is. Basing himself now.
Look, he can hope though. Nothing wrong with a dream. Michael Stewart comes in for his second stop now as well. So we're starting to see a few different strategies playing out. Jamie Dyke, meanwhile, I think he's been caught up a little bit in battling behind him with Poynton, because that gap to Van der Kraan has extended even further. It's out to 5.5, approaching 6 seconds now. That's not where Jamie Dyke wants to be at this point, and it's certainly not that Van der Kraan has picked up a whole bunch of speed either, because he's sitting still 1 second back from Wayne Walker. I really wonder whether Van der Kraan is perhaps doing a little bit of fuel saving at this point, just not really trying to close the gap to Walker. Just quite content to sit there, so he may get just even a few tenths advantage on that second stop with the fill of fuel to the end. That's going to be all it really takes, I'm sure. But for Jamie Dyke, well, Mark Poynton is threatening again, and he's spending a lot of time, I think, watching his mirrors here, and it's costing him. It's hurting all three of these drivers, in fact.
What have we got our lap times at, Joe? They're doing, 26.5s. I think, obviously, these guys, they can't talk to each other during the race, but I think that they are pretty focused on moving forward rather than attacking each other. It's important, and most of us racers know, Jared, that battling with someone around you is always going to be slower than just driving with them, and it's pretty important at this point of the race, as we do now quickly look back to the battle for that would be for the 20th. Yeah, and these guys absolutely going at it. It was a fantastic move that we just caught the back end of by Michael Stewart, and he has looked to get himself in front of Dave Galley and really start to stretch those legs and get a bit of an advantage, and he does appear to be doing it. We now have a quick look back to Troy Sipple. It appears, Jared, that no matter where we want to look at the moment, there's a Southern Cross racing car involved in the battle. So those guys are having an absolute ball tonight. And putting on some really good quality racing. Sipple runs very wide, and we see him just ever so slightly become vulnerable to Hoffman behind him, but of course Hoffman only able to get an advantage on what would be deemed the wrong side of the track, but we have seen it tonight. Hanging wide through this chicane can work. Hoffman there has been put off by Troy Sipple, not off the track, just momentarily balked, and just had to take a bit of time, Hoffman did, to make sure that he got his car back in and on the track where he wanted to. He will resume racing and do everything that he can to pull Troy Sipple back in and go back about trying to make that pass again. It was a gallant attempt, but unfortunately found himself on the wrong side of the road as he came up to that right-hand turn and just wasn't able to get that pass finished.
Going back to the pass that we saw just a little earlier, with Dave Galley involved, that chicane has thrown up a bunch more passing opportunities than I ever expected it to tonight. I don't know what it is about the entry to it, but everyone seems to be able to make something of the pass into that particular chicane. So I'm curious to see if Hoffman tries to follow suit here, because it has been a really, really popular spot, and he's closing in on Troy Sipple, maybe even setting up for the attempt here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's actually a 3-step chicane rather than just 2. So obviously it's got the right-hand entrance, and then it's got this funny little left-hand kink before another right-hand corner. And I think if you can hang tough on the left as you approach the chicane, as it drops off down the hill, all of a sudden you're on the correct side for that little left-hand kink, and you can just release the brake a bit more because you're in a much better straight line and fire yourself through. Whereas if you're on the right, if you're on the traditional racing line and there's a car to your left, you've actually got to pull it up a bit more, Jared, to make sure that you get back for that second part of the chicane. So just a little bit of crafty racemanship and making sure that we see those, or that these guys, that they really do, understand every single part of this track and where to get the benefit from. As we see, Jared, Dean Logsdale has jumped into the pit. So the first of our front runners has really made, or shown their hand. We've got McKnight in there as well. So those guys have finished their pit stop. If I have a quick look at Dean Logsdale,
13 and a half seconds in the pit box. That was much longer than I expected from him.
Another fresh set of boots, yeah. So obviously tyres are going to be the limiting factor here, and has gone to the effort of taking another set of tyres. But we expect that everyone else will take tyres as well, and the differentiating factor will be the lack of need for Logsdale to take much fuel at all.
We see Wayne Walker, Van der Kraan, Mark Pointenall coming in, so Jamie Dyke stays out and will enjoy some clear air for the first time in a little while. No one on his tail to worry about, and just the racetrack out in front of him. We'll check in with him shortly, but keep an eye on the pit stop information coming through as all of these drivers start to make their second stop.
McKeon has crashed entering the pit lane.
Well, that's probably not ideal, honestly.
It's not. It's absolutely not, and a bit of a mistake. He's managed to recover and has made his way down the pit lane, but a real shame for the driver at the back end of the 10. So he's currently sitting somewhere around the back end of the 10, and he will be disappointed to have made that mistake.
Oh, we can't even actually see it.
It's a beautiful view of that tree, Jared.
Yeah, it was a very nice tree. It was. We'll see if we can get a slightly more useful view of that pit entry and see what's happened. Oh, big lockup on the way in. Thankfully, probably not much damage there. A very, very solid 90-degree hit to that wall.
A bit of a bruise to his ego, I think.
Oh, I would suspect so.
But no, you're right, Jared. Very little in the way of car damage as we now skip to Jamie Dyke, who is out in front and really enjoying that lead as he dives into pits. We have absolutely picked Jamie Dyke up at just the right time. We now look back, Spriggs is in as well, so Wayne Walker once again is going to be the car in the lead, and we will see how this all washes out. So Dyke is in the pits and is awaiting service. Wayne Walker coming around now, their second last turn, and he will be looking to get down the pit straight. I expect that we will see Wayne Walker out in front of Jamie Dyke, which we are. Van der Kraan has now passed Dyke. I'm interested to see whether Logsdale is going to be able to sneak through for a position on the back of the. Was such
big
a
moment
close
for Jamie Dyke.
It was a huge moment. Jamie Dyke knew exactly what was going on there, and he absolutely knew that pit exit was integral to his chances of remaining on the podium, and that was full commitment on pit exit, Jared. I don't think I've ever seen someone as committed on cold tyres looking to get out of the pit lane. Dean Logsdale, as we see, has dropped down to fourth, some 7 seconds off the lead. So unfortunately for him, the strategy of staying out long on the first stint has not paid off.
Not yet. And look, I don't see how it's going to from here, but you never know, right? We've still got about 11 laps to go. Jamie Dyke has put himself in exactly the position he wants to be. He wanted to get out in front of Logsdale so that he had this clear air ahead. He's going to be able to make the absolute most of these fresh tyres, and he's going to need to, because of course Walker and Van der Kraan are out on effectively their first hot lap now on those fresh tyres. So expect this to be a reasonably quick one as they come across the line in just a moment. But keep your eye on Jamie Dyke, and more importantly the gap to Dean Logsdale. That is going to start to open up now as Dyke's tyres come up to temp. A 25.59, a 25.69 for Walker and Van der Kraan. So not quite their best pace, but not far off it. Jamie Dyke now looking to set his fastest lap, hopefully, on these fresh tyres, and then start to continue to claw away at the just over 6 second gap to Van der Kraan. Wayne Walker, though, 2 seconds out in front of Van der Kraan now. I wonder if Van der Kraan's enjoying the feeling of what he's put most of these other drivers through. As Mark Pointen goes through on Dean Logsdale, gets the inside line. Logsdale finds himself just a little bit wide. If he can hold it, he's going to have the inside run into the next corner, but I think Pointen has the acceleration to get there. Logsdale goes deep under brakes. He's going to try and force alongside, pushes Pointen out to the wider line, and they've come together, but Logsdale maintains his position. just doing enough to hang on to fourth for now, but a warning shot from Mark Poynton there. And Dean Logsdale is definitely going to have some work to do for the next 10 laps if he wants to hang on to fourth position.
Yeah, that's a beautiful bit of driving from both of those drivers. Not a millimetre more given on track than they were entitled to. A little bit of contact on the way out, but nothing wrong with that. That is just, you know, some of the best supercars driving that you will see. And if you ever thought that that fourth and fifth didn't matter, well, you know, I think that just shows that it absolutely does. We now have a look all the way back. The battle for 18th here, as we see Farrington, Sattler and Hoffman once again, a couple of Southern Cross racing cars, one of them doing his very best, disappearing act for just a moment there. These guys locked in battle with Sattler 2/10 off the back of Farrington. I can assure you, Jared, when you're at 2/10 off the back of the car in front, you're not looking at your relative. You don't need any advice on whether you are gaining or losing. As we see a huge moment there mid-corner for Sattler. He is pushing hard, and he will know exactly how much that has cost him as he loses about 4 or 5 car lengths to Farrington in front. He will be disappointed. There's no doubt that Angry Birds car looks faster than the Southern Cross racing car, and now he just sets about gaining that time back and latching back onto the back of Farrington, although he does need to make sure that he looks in his mirrors, because Hoffman's not going anywhere, I don't think, Jared.
No, absolutely not. I'm just keeping an eye on the timing tower at the moment. Poynton and Logsdale still going at it, but not a lot of movement. Jamie Dyke starting to open the gap back to the both of them, a second and a half, but the gap forward from Dyke to Vanderkram continuing to grow up to 5.7 seconds now. That last lap, Jamie Dyke at 25.9, a 26.55 for Vanderkram and a 25.98 for Wayne Walker. Means that Jamie Dyke is technically closing the gap a little, but it's not going to be anywhere near enough. As we see Kitas starting to catch up to the three of them here. We're about to have a four-way battle. And you know what? This is what I'm here for. Love a bit of close racing, even if it is for P18. These guys are not too worried about it not being for sheep stations. It's all good fun out on track here with Alliance Sim Racing, and Peter Sattler is making the absolute most of it, finds himself right up behind Farrington again. No mistake this time, doesn't need to back out, and this is going to give him a phenomenal run down the straight. Farrington doing everything he can to pull away, but Sattler is right there with him. Hoffman coming along as well, and here comes Alex Kitas, who, look, again, slightly fresher tyres, but not a lot in it. He's just managed to close that gap right up while they've been battling it out, and all of a sudden, four-way battle, here we go.
Yeah, absolutely, and, you know, we all know as race drivers, as we see there, Sattler looking to move out of the way, but look, I'm not sure whether he just missed the apex there on that corner or what happened, but definitely what looked to be a bit of an odd move. But anyway, Sattler back down to 20th, and we all know as racing drivers, Jared, just a huge moment. So a huge moment off the corner before, which meant that he just couldn't get back across to the apex. So a big wobble there for Sattler, and it looks like he's now being grabbed by Kitas as well. So potentially a tyre issue for Sattler, and really some stuff, or I guess some tyre wear or tyre life starting to fall away. But what I was just going to say, Jared, we know as race drivers that battles are not good for us. They really do chew up time, and yet, you know, time and time again we get suckered into them, and we really just end up, you know, racing people harder than we should.
Look, not good for us is such a subjective term, right? It's not good for your track lap times. It's not good for your position, perhaps, in a race. But geez, it's good for your soul. It really is. It's some of the best fun is these battles that just go on and on for laps, even if you're not catching the people in front, even if it's actually costing you overall time. I still reckon it's probably one of the healthiest ways to get a little bit of the stress and frustration out. Of course, it can cause its own other kinds of frustration, as you do get caught up in tangles sometimes, but it's hard to argue with. It really is. Big moment, Alex Kitas and Andrew Hoffman. What's happened here? Through the hairpin, Kitas has a look up the inside, contact made. They both go round, and Peter Sattler picks up those couple of spots that he's just dropped. And Kitas waiting there for Andrew Hoffman to have an opportunity to get underway again. That's going to cost them both quite a few positions, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the respectful thing to do. That's nothing but a mistake from Ketis. That's the right thing to do when you make a mistake like that is just to pull up and let the other car get back underway. It won't see you escaping penalty, but it will certainly see you minimising your penalty to the very biggest extent that you possibly can. And now it's time for us to quickly look forward. The battle for fourth. Not even the sort of position where you're going to get to spray champagne, but certainly one that is still really important to these guys. Mark Poynton becoming a force to be reckoned with in the last couple of rounds, but Dean Logsdale, as we've touched on tonight a couple of times, really having a fantastic season. And these guys will both be very keen to get the points that are associated with fourth. It's brewing up that it might just be a fantastic run to the finish for these two, Jared.
Absolutely. I suspect we'll be watching this one come lap 35 to see just who does take P4. Right now, you've got to think that the top three are pretty well sewn up. Jamie Dyke not really managing to make much headway into that gap forward to Vanderkraan, but certainly starting to open up the gap to Logsdale and Poynton with every lap that goes by. Walker around in front, out to a little bit over 3 seconds from Vanderkraan. I mean, what do you do at that point?
You settle in and you absolutely consolidate the result that you've got. We've got 30-odd cars on the track, Jared, and only one of those cars can be the winner. So for the vast majority of our drivers, it's about maximising the best result that you can get. And at this point, Matt Vanderkraan will absolutely know that chasing Wayne Walker down is no longer his priority. His priority is safely getting to the finish. So this is where you back off just a little bit, Jared, maybe 98%. You just make yourself a little bit more comfortable. You push a little less harder. You drive just within yourself so you know that you can do it comfortably. And then you pray to anyone that will listen for the car in first place to fall off the track, blow an engine, be caught up with a lap car. You don't really care at that point. You just want to make sure that you get to the finish and the guy in front doesn't.
Speaking of making your way to the finish and taking care of the guys in front, Scott Gamble right now looking for the move. A bit of contact there. Just straightens Damien Cairns up and says, come on, mate, on your way. Jay McKnight's going to look to capitalise as well. But Scott Gamble right now, if you can stay ahead of Jay McKnight, is up 14 positions from where he started. So a huge improvement for him in this race. And just a few back, you can see in the background, David Coleman up 16 from his starting position. So definitely some moving and shaking further back in the field still. Scott Gamble, he's gonna line it up and have another go at Damien Cairns, I'm sure. It's just a question of when. He is running out of time though, lap 31 of 35. It's getting closer and closer to the finish of race 2 here at Barber Motorsport Park as we look to very quickly, I suspect, wrap up round 6 and see where we stand at the end of these couple of races. It's been such an unusual couple of races here at Barber. We're so used to much narrower tracks. I know I said this earlier, but I actually think the drivers are almost struggling a little with all this room. They don't quite know what to do with it sometimes.
I don't know that struggling is the word, Jared, but it's I guess we talked early on in the piece about the fact that this track is very flowing, and the reality is that flowing tracks don't necessarily suit supercars. The way that a supercar really makes its speed and particularly makes its passing opportunities is through stop-start tracks and short corners. So a lot of long corners on this track, mid-range, mid-speed corners that take a lot of effort and time to load up and just not what these cars are conducive to. What I can say from the limited laps that I've done around here in a supercar, incredibly fun track. I think that when we talk to some drivers tonight, they're going to tell us that they had a ball. And these leagues, at the end of the day, unlike supercars in the real world, which is an entertainment beast and really is for the fans, these leagues are very much for the drivers. And if the end result is that every now and then we watch a race that's maybe not the most exhilarating, then I think it's worth it if it is on a track that is as fun as this track is, because the challenge of this track is unlike just about anything else that I've driven on. And of course, as we can see here from Scott Campbell, having worked his way up to the back of Damien Cairns again, there's no doubt that Scott is quicker than Damien. And what we're seeing is a little bit of defensive driving as we move to the back end of this race. So we are still seeing good racing, Jared. I'm certainly not here to say that tonight's been a dud, but maybe just not as exhilarating outside the car as it was inside the car.
Yeah, and again, we spoke about this in race one, right? The track being so wide, I think, is what makes it seem almost slow in comparison to some of the previous races. But these guys are having to work super hard for this still, because it is such a wide open track. It almost gives you that extra level of confidence, doesn't it, to push a little bit harder than you might when instead you're faced with concrete walls just at the track edges. I think being on a track like Barber just does give most of these drivers an opportunity to perhaps push a little bit harder with less fear of the damage that might result if they get it ever so slightly wrong. There's a little bit more room to just adjust your line, take an alternative approach to the corner if you do outbrake yourself. And as a result, that's made it so much harder to get these passes done, because you've got drivers pushing harder than they ever usually would. They don't need to worry too much about taking a more defensive line, because they're not going to end up in a wall.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that happens, and it inevitably happens, is we see Sattler there going very slow. So not 100% sure what's happened, but Lorne McKee is all of a sudden all over the back of him. So Sattler here putting a move on, and unfortunately just getting everything all locked up. So no harm, no foul really. He's back up and running and battling with Lorne McKee behind. What I was going to say, Jared, is from the outside, race cars always look far more composed than they are on the inside, and by the time that a moment is big enough that we can see it, there is a whole heap of stuff going on inside that car. And certainly what I would suggest is that for our teams or for our drivers, that there is more going on than you could imagine. And the reality is, Jared, that even in these shots, what we don't see with iRacing is just how much work these guys are going through with their feet as well. And one thing that a lot of people may not realise is that there is more hand-eye coordination required or feet-eye coordination as well required for motorsport than a lot of people would believe. It's not like jumping in your Corolla and ducking down to the shops. There's a fair bit going on, and all of these little bumps that we see through there all require adjustments on brake pressure. And these cars, they want to crack sideways under acceleration, and lots of effort goes in corners like this, high speed up over the bumps, and it doesn't look like a huge amount, Jared, but I can assure you that every one of these drivers will have 100 stories from tonight about times they thought that they were going to lose it, or locking a rear or locking the rears under braking, and the back end starting to get away, or wheel spin over a hump. All of these things are all happening, and we just look at the outside of these cars and they look beautiful and composed, but the reality is that they're not.
No, it's an absolute beast of a car to try and drive a Gen 3 supercar, but they make it look so easy. It almost fools your average punter, like say me, into thinking that these cars aren't too bad to drive, and I can assure you that is not the case at all. We won't dig too deeply into the story of how many attempts at a lap it took at Bathurst before I was actually able to complete one without hitting the wall. We'll come back to that another time, I'm sure. But we are into the last lap, and Wayne Walker, look, a dominant performance here in race number 2. He's got a couple of seconds over Matt Vanderkraan, and just coming around the final corner now, making it look easy. Wayne Walker takes the win in race number 2. Matt Vanderkraan right behind him. Looks like Alex Kiedis coming through there, but here comes Jamie Dyke, has found his way onto the podium tonight. He'll be stoked with that. Dean Logsdale right behind him, and then Mark Poynton coming across in 5th. I'll tell you what, that's not going to make much more separation in the point standings as Spriggs takes the line and pulls to a stop very, very quickly. Here comes Damien Cairns over to the pit wall ahead of Scott Gamble, who finishes up 15 from his starting position. David Coleman coming through there up 17 in 11th. An awesome finish for him. And then a little bit of daylight back to Scott McCune in 12th as we wait for Stephen Varga and Rick Vigar to make their way through 13th to 14th. Rick having a really good drive there, actually up 12, started in 26th, finds himself in 14th. So a really, really solid drive for him tonight as well. He'll be very happy with that, I'm sure, as we watch the rest of these drivers coming across the line. And Josh, look, not perhaps some of the door-banging action that we've come to expect from ASR, but some really super consistent driving, and honestly, that is way harder than going door-to-door sometimes.
No, look, a track like this, I was surprised when I drove it earlier tonight about how much effort it required. And I basically straight away said that, I'll be surprised if there's not a significant number of cars off the track tonight. The reality is that there just wasn't. So, first of all, I am surprised. And secondly, I think that, we need to respect the effort that these guys went to. So, at the best of times, and especially not on a circuit like this where there's just so much effort put into just getting the cars around the track.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do by any stretch of the imagination. Let's take a look at the results now. Race 2 is done and dusted, and we've got results flying through from the stewards now. Wayne Walker taking the points here in race number 2 ahead of Matt Vanderkraan. Jamie Dyke finding his way back to 3rd position, up 6 from where he started. So a great drive for him, and keeps him very much in the hunt for the top end of this championship. Dean Logsdale in 4th as well. A good result for Team AJR there. Mark Poynton continues to impress, 5th place for Frog Leap Juiced Racing, and he is absolutely proving that he has got what it takes to mix it with the names that we recognise here from the last couple of seasons. Damien Cairns staying amongst it. Scott Gamble, a huge drive, up 15 positions into 8th. Then Jamie McKnight and Jim Caparonis finishing not too far from where they started that race. David Coleman up 17. Scott McCune, Stephen Varga and Rick Vigar up 12 positions in 14th. Then Mick Clifton and Brian Minogue with Michael Stewart and Simon Farrington not too far behind them. We will take a moment to chat to our 3rd place getter here this evening. Jamie Dyke, welcome back to the booth, my friend. How are you?
I'm pretty sweaty, but pretty good. Jared, how are you?
Mate, doing well. I find you in, I suspect, better spirits than last week. You've had a very, very nice second race there, coming through in 3rd. We've just been talking about how it's a lot of work to put in such consistent fast laps, and I suspect that might be a little bit to do with your sweatiness right now, hey?
Yeah, well, it didn't seem consistent, I'll tell you that much. I was a little bit nervous when I was battling with Logsdale and Mark, but yeah, as I've harped on all season, I hate this track, so I'm happy with 3rd.
Jamie, talk us through that hatred. So, I only cut my first laps here as Supercar tonight, prepping for our broadcast, and I was probably surprised. I'm not overly familiar with Barber. I was massively surprised by the undulation. Is your problem with this track that undulation, trying to tame a supercar around here? Is there something more than that? Are you just scared of the spiders that you see every lap when you get down to the hairpin?
No, I've never gelled with this track. There's a lot of tracks that are like this, with all the undulation and the chicanes and the high-speed kinks, and that I do really well at. It's just, for some reason, Barber itself, I can never get, and I can't stand.
Well, you have made it through, mate, and I think that a 5th and a 3rd's probably not a bad way to finish up. Oh, sorry, I think it was an 8th and a 3rd.
Ninth and a 3rd.
9th and a 3rd. Oh my goodness, it's getting worse and worse. I do want to ask you though about that 9th. I noticed that with about a lap and a half to go, you got a pretty easy pass on your teammate in Jamie McKnight, and then looked a bit like you gave it back at the end. Was that a little bit of teamwork? See if you can get up ahead, and if you can't, to hand it back, or did you make a bit of a mistake late in the race?
Nah, it was teamwork. We really should have done it earlier, but we wanted to race against each other, and then it got to a point where it was probably a lap too late. Another lap, and I would have had those boys. But he let me pass so I could have a crack, and I had a couple dives, but I'll be the good teammate, and I gave him spot back.
We love to see it, mate. I think that I wasn't here last week, but I heard that you were a little bit down about your championship. I don't think that you're out of this at all yet, mate. If you can go to a track that you don't like and come away with a couple of top tens and one of them being a podium, I think you're in for a red hot shot for the rest of the year, mate. I can't remember the calendar from here, but where are you excited to get to for the back half of this season?
All of them. Thankfully, they are all pet tracks. Winton, Motorsport, Daytona, and then into Lagos. I have ran well at every single one of them.
Well, I hope that you are prepared, as our good mate Dick Johnson said, to run a marathon around your clothesline, because Winton is one of those tracks. I'm glad to hear that you do well at it, mate. We wish you a fantastic evening. We'll let you get back to the rest of your team. Congratulations on a fantastic night, and I think you have absolutely fired a warning shot across the bow of all of your other competitors. If this is a bad night for Jamie Dyke, you've done absolutely fantastically.
No, thanks, mate. You guys have a good night.
Jamie Dyke taking P3 in race number 2 and coming away with some decent points from the night. We'll go to P3 rather. Go to P2 now. Matt Vanderkraan, welcome back to the booth, my friend. A lot of work in that one tonight, hey?
It was, mate. Yes, very, very hard work, but very enjoyable. Not quite the result I wanted, but Wayne was too quick, so well done to him.
We were talking during the race, Matt, about consolidating that second place. At what point, I guess, did you know that Wayne was probably too quick, and you just had to make sure that you didn't let Jamie reel you in there?
I had hopes up until the second pit stop, when Wayne was 2 and a bit seconds ahead of me, and I went for a bit of a push, but then I just started making too many little errors, and it was bye-bye Wayne. So there was no catching. I knew even if I got to him, I wouldn't get past him. It was pretty competitive with him in the first race, but there's no way I was getting past him.
We saw probably less passing here than we might have expected. We mused a few things during that race. Was it the width of the track? Barber's a beautiful, big, wide track, plenty of opportunity to lean on the throttle and use up some exit on corner exit. I also commented on just how undulating it is. Have you got any thoughts on that? What made it so hard to pass tonight? Is it just the quality of the field?
First of all, I want to say I'm impressed that you boys were musing. That's good. And it's just no long straights. It was very short straights. Unless someone made that little bit of error to open the door for you, maybe into turn 5, or through one of those chicanes, which were easy to make a mess of. Very, very difficult. You're really relying on the other person to make a bit of a boo-boo.
We also now turn our attention to the back half of this season. We have just been having a bit of a chat to Jamie Dyke, and he expressed how much he doesn't like this track, but made comment that the next series of tracks are all pet tracks of his. How do you see the back half of this championship going?
Oh, look, I'll play the game. I love them. They're all great. I don't even know what they are, but I love them.
Look, that's what we like to hear. It's definitely hotting up. It's pretty tight at the top. Is what we like to see. I'm sure that you are having a ball with it as well. And we just look forward to seeing the back half of this championship. And I'm sure that Mr. Vanderkraan is going to love all of those tracks, and he does know what they are. I'm sure that you've had a good look at the calendar. Mate, final thoughts on tonight. you happy with the results? Is it what you expected? Did you think you had more in you before you got into the race tonight?
Look, there was a moment of missed opportunities. I missed pole by 8,000ths of a second. That hurt me in the first race. Off the line hurt me in the second race. So a little bit disappointed. Happy enough with the way I drove. Can't complain about 2 seconds. But I'll tell you what, if we had another drop round in, I think Wayne Walker would be sitting on top of this table right now.
Yeah, he's definitely fast. He's a name that's caught my attention this season, and I'm sure that you'll be paying attention to a couple of guys that are really not that far away from it. It's probably not as much breathing room as you've had in the last couple of seasons you would have liked. We're going to let you get back to your team. Matt, thank you very much for joining us. We hope that you have a fantastic evening. No doubt we'll be talking to you again soon. And we look forward to seeing you back out on track in a week's time.
I appreciate it, boys. Yeah, you're right. I'm loving it. It's great having the competition. Cheers, boys.
Matt Vanderkruin there, taking P2 in race number 2 this evening. We turn our attention now to the top step of the podium. Wayne Walker, welcome back to the commentary booth, and congratulations on the results tonight. All around, an absolutely stellar round for you here at Barber Motorsports Park. How are you feeling?
Yeah, couldn't wish for any more. It was, pretty much perfect night for me.
Wayne, it looked pretty comfortable out the front. Is this a pet track of yours? Did things just fall your way? I'm probably surprised to see you as comfortable in race 2 as you were, considering that you had to come through from 5th.
Yeah, I do like this track. It's not one of my favourites, but I do like it. Race 1, it was pretty much just about not making any mistakes. Otherwise, Matt was right there to, make the move if I made a mistake. But yeah, then race 2, I got a ripper of a start straight up into P2, and then I sort of thought I might be able to hit a little bit early and try and jump Dean in the pit stop, and that worked. And then after the second pit stop, come out with a couple of second lead, and I was expecting Matt to start catching again, because in the first race and the first sort of couple of stints in race 1, he seemed to have just 0.1 of a second quicker than me, but I was able to slowly pull away. So I'm not sure what happened to him in the last stint, but it was good for me to be able to sort of maintain that gap.
It was a fantastic strategy race, and I guess starting 5th, a bit more of a challenge in that longer race. What was the point? I guess obviously we saw that whole first stint Dean led. You didn't seem particularly stressed about getting in front of him. What was the point, I guess, in that race, that you were comfortable with your strategy and that you were comfortable that you were going to come out, probably in first and if not right there or thereabouts?
The first stint, it was more, there was nowhere to pass. I was never close enough to sort of put a move on. I was pushing, and if there was any mistakes, I could have capitalised, but that's why I decided to pit early and try and get an undercut, and then just sort of push as hard as I could to try and get a bit of a gap. But yeah, even after the last pit stop, I wasn't sure when I pitted how far Matt would be behind or anything like that. So yeah, it was pretty much once we'd all pitted, it was just a matter of not making a mistake and letting Matt catch up. That was it.
Well, mate, you drove a fantastic race, and I think that the races are kind of polar opposite. You touched on it a second ago. First race, Matt Vanderkruin was with you the whole race. It was very close. It really took a huge amount of concentration to get to the end with a car that close. Second race, maybe not so much, particularly second and third stint, you were kind of doing your own thing. Which one, from your perspective, what was the more enjoyable race? Were you happy being out there on your own and, just having your time in the sun, or did you really enjoy that battle in the first race?
I don't know. They were both good fun. The first race was definitely a lot more pressure, having Matt so close. The second race, having a bit of a gap. I don't know. Maybe you're not overdriving the car as much, but you're still, because of that, you're still making the pace. So the second race didn't feel as much pressure, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know which one was more enjoyable. Probably the second race, I think.
There's something special about being out on your own, isn't there? And that time in the sun, mate. Matt Vanderkraan made the comment that if there was 2 drop rounds, you would probably be somewhere near the top of the table, if not at the top of the table. It's been a breakout season for you, new to ASR and really showing some pace. You must be absolutely stoked. The back end of this season, anywhere in particular that you're desperate to get to, or just happy with all of the tracks and keen to get racing?
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm I couldn't be happier with how this season's going. There's been a couple of sort of races where I haven't done so good, but if I finish the season sort of good like I have the last couple of races, we should be right up there, in contention. So as far as tracks coming up, Daytona I've never raced on. I think that'd be about the only track that I out of the next sort of 5.
There we go.
Or next 4, sorry.
Well, I've done a little bit there. I'll give you the red hot tip: stay in the train. If you fall out of the train, mate, it's all over. You will have a ball there, though. It's a huge amount of fun. I think that it's going to be a great back end of the season. We're super excited to see you guys battle it out. We're going to let you go, mate. Get back to all your teammates and enjoy a double win, a fantastic result. Congratulations from all of us, mate. You really put on a clinic tonight, and we can't wait to see you have another crack next week.
Thank you. See you next week.
Wayne Walker there taking the win here in race number 2 and absolutely wrapping up a phenomenal round for him. And with that, it's time for us, Josh, to take a bit of a look at the provisional point standing after this race. And look, I don't think there's been a whole lot of movement in the top end of the table, just a few swaps here and there. The gap between Vanderkraan and Jamie Dyke is sitting at 50 points right now, but look out for Jamie Dyke over the next few weeks as he tackles some of his favourite tracks. Wayne Walker moving a little closer to the top end, Jamie McKnight dropping back just a little, but have a look at 4th, 5th and 6th, separated by only, if my maths is any good, 8 points from McKnight back to Logsdale. There is still plenty to play for across the rest of this season. And I think we've got a few cracking tracks really ahead of us here, Josh. I don't know about you, but I'm very excited to see what the remaining weeks of this season 4 of the Alliance Sim Racing V8 Supercar Series brings us.
Yeah, we probably couldn't go from much polar opposite, going from Barber, as we talked about, very fast, very wide, and incredibly undulating. And we are now off to Winton, which would be favourably described as the slowest goat track in Australia. Classic Supercars track. Produces its own brand of exciting racing, but is probably without doubt the slowest average speed track that we're going to go to. So just a totally different style of racing next week, and then obviously Motorsport, and then I'm particularly excited to see these guys tackle Daytona Road. Not the sort of track that you'd normally see these supercars in. But Matt Vanderkraan said tonight that we didn't see passing here because there wasn't many big long straights into tight corners. Well, I don't know about you, Jared, but there's probably nowhere with longer straights into tighter corners than Daytona Road. An oval to do some bump drafting on and all those fun NASCAR super speedway things. One of the best chicanes in the world in the bus stop, and then 3 hairpins for the center section of the track. There's probably you know, when we talk about supercars, it's not traditional, but I think that it's going to produce some really fun racing.
I don't doubt it, absolutely. But of course, before we get there, Winton next week, it's going to be a very, very different week, of course. A flat layout, very heavy braking zones, low speed track generally. It's a setup engineer's nightmare, so I don't envy Jamie McKnight his job at all. But of course, a driver's dream if you get it just right. The championship stakes keep rising from here as we approach the end of this season. We'll be keeping a close eye on it, of course, from right here in the booth and bring you all of the action over the remaining rounds of the season. From everyone here in the Simple Racing Broadcast commentary team, myself, Jared Cole, and Josh Harris, of course, thank you so much for joining us for round 6. We will see you next week at Winton. The elbows will be out. Nothing comes easy at that track. But until then, keep the throttle pinned, stay safe, and we will see you next time. It is goodbye for now.